Hey guys, my name's Cherian, and I want to introduce you to our premiere edition of Mouthpiece, right here on MTV Desi. Our intentions for this show is to create a platform for young Desi Americans to voice their unique opinion, tackle the issues that they face on a daily basis, and have the opportunity to connect with other Desis. We wanted to kick the series off by addressing one of the most prevalent issues in the media today, specifically the image of Islam. In order to do this, we needed to go straight to the young people. We wanted to know what it meant to be a young Muslim living in today's America. Once we found these young Muslims, we invited some notable figures within the Islamic community. Among them was Irshad Manji, scholar for the European Foundation for Democracy and author of the best-selling book, The Trouble with Islam Today. They were also joined by Kamal Nawash, founder of the Free Muslims Coalition, and finally by Daniel Pipes, director of the Middle East Forum. So let's kick off our first episode of Mouthpiece, focusing on the image of Islam today. I want to start off by, first of all, reading some statistics. According to a poll conducted by Pew, it was found that 39% of Americans find an unfavorable view of Islam. A CBS poll found that Americans view Islam as the least favorable religion among the mainstream religions in the United States. And probably the statistic that scares me the most is that, according to a recent Gallup poll, 40% of Americans think Muslims should be forced to carry around a special ID. Without sounding like a psychologist, I want to know how you guys feel about that and why is that?
I think, Cherian, I should really, first of all, speak into the mic. I think that a lot of both non-Muslims and Muslims in this country and around the world are confused when they hear Muslims insist that Islam means peace, and yet they see so much violence that's committed under the banner of Islam. And they have to wonder, therefore, how seriously should we take this slogan that Islam means peace? But I can tell you, having written a book called The Trouble with Islam Today, that has been read all around the world, I can tell you, Cherian, that I receive, in the last 3 years, maybe 5 emails from non-Muslims who have said, thanks, Irshad, for reinforcing my racism. Thanks for, reminding me that Muslims are beyond salvation. I get exactly the opposite response. Thank you for reminding us that Muslims are not monolithic, that they are diverse, and that there are many ways of thinking within your community. So let's not get too hung up on those Gallup poll numbers that you just cited.
Another question, first I want to know, how many people here are Muslim? How many are not? 2, cool. Ajith, do you want to address this?
Sure. Well, I want to say that, having an identification card is wrong, but I have like a lot of friends who are Afghani Hindus, and over there under the Taliban, a lot of them had to wear like a yellow star, something that the Jews had to wear in Nazi Germany. And I think that's wrong, but I think Muslims and Hindus in America are being discriminated against. A lot of times I gotten beaten up because people thought I was Muslim. And I would say I'm very proud to be Hindu. But Muslims over here, they need to realize that, outside, like in Muslim majority countries, you're treating the minorities like crap. So you can't come over here to another country and expect people to treat you with respect when people are looking at other countries and seeing this.
I honestly think that the fact that one would say, oh, well, you have to realize. To be honest with you, America's my country. I was born and raised here as a Muslim. I'm proud to be Muslim. I've never treated anybody else like crap. I founded many organizations in the university that I worked with that basically said, we need to reach out as Muslims to other people. We need to bring people together. We need to unite on the basis of the fact that Islam teaches us to do so. So, I don't think that, we can judge the actions of other countries of corrupt governments, because every civilization has had its slew of corrupt regimes and corrupt governments. Europe has had the same, much of Asia has had the same, and Muslims maybe are going through this phase right now in politics. I think that phase will pass, and I honestly think that we should all kind of have a more positive picture of what, our sense of unity can entail.
The problem is that Americans are confused. They're being told that there's only one kind of Islam, and they hear and they see the atrocities coming from around the world, starting with 9/11. It's important to distinguish between radical Islam and non-radical Islam or traditional Islam. And this is a distinction that the leading voices in this country, the leading Islamic voices, Muslim voices, are denying and saying it's all one. And therefore it's particularly important that people like Irshad and Kamal speak out and say, no, the radical voice of Islam is the problem and we're against it. Unfortunately, their voices are still fairly minor compared to the dominant radical voices in this country, which is what leads to, I think, this very negative view of Islam.
I feel more so that it's not Islam, it's just people, individuals using it as a label to make an excuse or to do what they do. It's more of a situation where individuals put themselves into and we're being labeled as those kind of people. When you see things here, when somebody does something, it doesn't matter what religion they're from, but do you see every single Christian or Hindu here that does something, are they being persecuted for their religion? No one's looking at their religion, but when a Muslim does something wrong, right away, oh, they're Muslim, they're Islamic, so they're bad right away. And, as I think it is with Americans, that it's tolerance level, ignorance, and no one knows what they're talking about. They don't know Islam well enough to make decisions. So.
Kamal, please.
I don't necessarily disagree with everything that's being said here, but I'm going to respond to what my friend here said. She said basically, when other people of other religions do bad things, people don't say, well, hey, it's a Christian or a Jew. Well, the problem with that argument is that over the last 20 years, we are seeing the rise of what we call political Islam, and that is Muslims or political movements in the name of Islam. So on one hand, they are acting in the name of Islam, and when there are many American Muslims that support that, and then when they get negative feedback from it, they say, hey, don't blame us. This is not Islam. This is others. So, for example, I as a Muslim, I came here today actually to defend, and I didn't think I would be taking this role. But I mean, certainly a lot of Christians and a lot of Jews do a lot of bad things, but oftentimes they don't do it in the name of Christianity, and they don't do it in the name of Judaism. That's on one hand. Now you mentioned the poll. I mean, the poll is not necessarily surprising. You start with 9/11. Obviously, this is a catastrophic event, and then after that, you had total focus on the entire Muslim community. And I think, as Daniel said, at that point, the Muslim community should have came up and made it clear that, hey, these guys are lunatics and they don't represent us. But unfortunately, many of my co-religionists probably took the predictable route of taking the defensive approach.
Does this poll upset anyone? Any of these polls?
I actually have written about that 40% endorsing the special IDs for Muslims and said it's immoral, it's illegal, and the like. I mean, but it represents a point of view that needs to be addressed and needs to be addressed by Muslims and by Muslim institutions.
The poll, certainly it upsets me as a Muslim woman living in the United States, as someone who was born and raised in America. To have someone say to me that I need to carry on around a special ID to proclaim that I am an American, it's disturbing to me. Why is it that I can't embrace both identities? And I think that's the issue that I find myself and a lot of my other, student friends who are Muslim as well who battle with. No, I don't think we should carry around an ID. And actually, Mr. Pipes, I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you had mentioned this, that it is the action of a few people. So why is it that we are labeling an entire Muslim community as terrorists or as people who should carry on this ID?
Well, I'm not endorsing the ID, but I would point out that there's widespread support for, if not actual terrorism, the point of view that stands behind it. That is to say, the radical Islamic viewpoint has widespread support. Polling isn't as good here as, for example, it is in Britain, but in Britain one finds consistently half the Muslim population supporting radical Islam. Here, it's not quite so clear what the numbers are, but they're up there. And I think that gets to the heart of the problem. It's not just about terrorism, it's about a whole set of attitudes.
I think it's a matter of terminology, and I want to follow up. I don't think calling it radical Islam is actually accurate. I think a better term for it is political Islam, and it's the desire or it's the belief that religion and politics should be mixed. Now here's the problem with this theory is that I do believe that many people who support this are actually very good people, are actually benevolent people. They're probably some of the best people you want to have as your neighbors. But I think as history shows, even when Christians or any society mixes religion and politics, you're going to end up with disaster. I mean, the last time the Europeans did the same thing or Christians did the same thing, we still refer to that period as the Dark Ages. So, and I think this is the problem when your basis for governance, for you, when you believe that a government needs to be governed by religion, well, that's inherently compulsive, that's inherently dictatorial, that's inherently bad, and it will lead to bad things. And I think this is the issue we need to deal with. And if you deal with the other issues, then you're not getting to the root. And until Muslims learn or we define our religion today where it's okay to separate religion from politics, I think we're going to continue to have problems.
Come on, can you hold that thought? We got to take a break. This side's itching to say something, so we'll see you back in a little bit.
We have to admit, as an American Muslim community and as a Muslim community worldwide, we had failed.